Today we're going to be talking about how to get consistent quality clients into your consulting business.
'Cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step today. I will never be the same, 'cause that's what it takes.
Welcome to your Consulting Business Podcast. My name's Russell Pearson, and this is episode number 7. That's right, I said Russell Pearson. I think I just stumbled over my own name. Now, today we're going to be talking about how to get consistent quality clients into your consulting business and how to really avoid the roller coaster ride that a lot of business owners go through of I've got too much work and I have no time on my hands and I don't have enough work. And we're going to talk about business models as well. There is a number of different business models, and there's ways to look and consider how you want to run your consulting business. All right. So for the last 25 years, I've been working in the spaces of sales, marketing, and promotion. And it's been interesting over that time to really understand, yes, number one, the fundamentals of what marketing and sales are, but then overcomplicating it, thinking that I was a little bit clever, and then coming back to why those fundamentals really exist. And it's incredible speaking to consultants around the world. Almost every single one of them is incredibly smart and incredibly clever, which means that from time to time they can also be overcomplicating the way to get consistency in their business. Now, there's a number of things that can get in the way of having consistent work, and some of those are business model related. Some of those are process related. And a large one is the reliance on referrals. Now, you hear me talk about this a fair bit, is this reliance on referrals. In other words, I've got a referral-based business. I've grown my business off the back of referrals is the statements that I hear a lot of the time. And number one, that highlights to me that they probably don't have a system to go and get work when they need it. And it also means that they've grown their business when someone's given them that work. Now, there's nothing wrong with referrals. Referrals are fantastic. I look at them as the cream on top of the business. But if you want to have consistent business, if you want to be able to go to sleep at night and not have to worry about where the next clients are coming from, if you don't need to worry about the up and down nature of revenue, and so that you can actually live a lifestyle that you enjoy, then having consistent quality clients coming into your business is really one of those things. And I say consistent quality clients because I'm sure you've experienced tire kickers. I'm sure that you have experienced people who have wasted your time or have, someone was called it the other day, they said brokies. People who are post or pre-revenue being like they haven't made any dollars yet. Post-revenue, they had dollars and now they don't have dollars. And so understanding who you're speaking to, so not just that you can really help them, not just that you love working with style of client, but also that they can easily afford you, because it can be challenging to get the most out of a client when they're living in survivability. So how do we find those clients that are really going to enable us to do our best work? Now, let's look at business models first. Now, there are all sorts of different business models for consulting businesses. There are solo consultants, and there are solo consultants who work with, say, small businesses. That's one. There's obviously solo consultants who work with the general public as well. But it's where they're considering really those they're smaller projects or smaller engagements, let's say. Now, that doesn't mean that they need to be cheaper. That's actually something to consider, because a lot of the time you can actually charge top dollar with a one-on-one engagement with a client if the value is there, right? But it means that in that smaller engagement, I'm talking about really time, focus, you can work with more clients. And so you might have either through a group scenario of some sort, I'm not talking necessarily about group coaching, but like group programs and a number of other things. You might be able to work with 30 plus clients, okay? This is solo, and maybe it's solo plus, which is kind of like solo with a VA or an assistant or an EA, someone who's supporting you in that. That's one side of it. Or you might have bigger contracts where there is much more onus on you being around or the time commitment to it. And I tend to look at those businesses as really being only able to look after maybe 4 clients on a 5-day week, because at least 20% of your time really needs to be dedicated on the running of the business, if not more. And if you've already given away 4 out of 5 days to the actual work that you're doing, then you're going to run out of time. Now, what's interesting about that model too is that if you are working with that smaller amount, it's so important to make sure that you've got a sort of a war chest of cash. Because if you lose one of those clients, and it can happen unexpectedly, I've seen people lose clients simply through death and injury, right? Their contact actually gets knocked out of the arrangement, and suddenly they're out of the system. They've got a new incumbent that's coming in because the person who is the contact is replaced by someone who has preferences of a different type of consultant, right? So there's all sorts of surprises that can pop up. But if that happens and like 25% of your income just disappears overnight, then if you're living, hand to mouth, because of the way you're spending cash, because of if you were comfortable, then you might have to ride out a few tough times. That's where the roller coaster comes in, because 25% of your revenue's gone. And so there are things to be mindful in that. Number one, if you're going to take on 5 of those clients in that 5-day week, you can also not have enough time to run the business and therefore not have opportunities in the pipeline. You're not talking to other people, which means that if one of those disappears and you lose 20% of your income, you've got a lot longer time frame to actually get new people in the business. Now, the other side of it is actually having a business that runs without you, which is a consultancy business where it has a team of consultants and they're all looking after different things. Now, with a team, whether you've got a small practice or whether you've got a bigger business that is actually running without you, most practices, the principal still is part of the operation. If you're running that, then obviously you've got more mouths to feed. So I was talking about before going from hand to mouth. Well, it ends up being from hand to mouth of my team, right? And I know even in my own business where I had, it was a small business, but we had 12 staff. And so it's a case of like having to look after not just myself in that capacity, but these 12 individuals who were being paid, salaries, Australian salaries, which means they were, significantly priced salaries. Was a big deal to make sure that we were having consistent projects, consistent new clients coming in the door because of the growth that we were experiencing and pushing, right? So all of these come down to lifestyle, and I'm going to put lifestyle to the side a little bit for today because I want to talk about how to get those consistent, good quality clients. But when it comes to your lifestyle, I think you really need to look at design in any of these spaces because there are so many different things that can work and not work. Bring it down to what sort of lifestyle you want, because the most clients that I work with, most consultants I work with, did not get into this space to make life harder for themselves. They got into this space because they had expertise to share, or processes and methodologies that were useful that enabled them to actually get better leverage on their intellectual property or their intelligence itself, right? So how can you be getting leverage? So if you want to work 3 days a week, then you've got to consider how you're going to engage and use your time effectively to make sure you're running the business as well as actually doing the work. Or getting other people to do the work. There's so many different versions of that. There's everything from brokerage to licensing to actually running the business yourself to actually contracting it out. Okay, so many different variations. And so what I'm going to be talking about today is ideally going to be working in any of those. So how do we get consistent? Well, we've talked about being inconsistent, and a large part of being inconsistent does come from not putting the time into the future for your business. So if you there's 2 different elements in particular that come into the future of your business. Number one is new connections. You may have 1,000 people on your email list. You might have 10,000 people on your email list. But if you've already talked to them X amount of times, they know you, that you're an option for when they're ready. And yes, they'll step up, or you can make an offer or whatever it might be. But bringing new people in is the thing that's going to actually create your future. So my question for you is, what are you currently doing to build your list? Now, I remember Russell Brunson had a concept that every one of these, maybe it wasn't even his concept, but every person on your list is worth $1 a month. And I would beg to differ on that and say, in my experience from selling higher value things, a lot of those people tend to be more like $20 to $100 a month. And I'm sure in your experience as well, you may have seen that too. So if you've got 1,000 people on your list, how much are you making monthly? If you've got 1,000 people on your list and you're making $100,000 a month, then yeah, it's $100. If you're making $50,000 a month, there you go. It's $50, and all the way down. Now, most consultants I speak to are either earning about $10,000 or $20,000 a month, and they're working on like how do I step up to $500,000? How do I send up to $600,000 annually? And you can just work the math back, right? So we're looking at making sure that you're making time. You're making time to be doing the marketing. You're making time to be doing the sales. And then the next step is, do you have a process to do that? So number one is that connections. So connections are the top end of a marketing process. Now, interestingly enough, and you've heard me talk about this before, pure marketing is where the energy is wasted for most small and medium consulting companies and solopreneurs in particular, solo consultants in particular, where they've been told, because they've been working in corporations and all the rest of it, that the brand becomes this really most important thing, and creating a need in the market, educating the market becomes a very important thing. But in actual fact, because you don't need tens of thousands of customers to come and buy from you on a regular basis, it is much simpler to not have to do all that marketing and just understand your specific client's problems really, really well, right? So that you can go and find out where they are, talk to them about those specific problems, talking to them about the aspirations for the steps they want to take. And those people are going to be incredibly responsive to you. Now, all you have to do is connect with them and have a chat. So on one side of the, we'll call it the funnel, we've got connections. So if we do regular connections, we will have regular new blood come into our business. All right. And so that's on one end. Now, the other side is the conversations. So I'm talking about literal conversations, because most consultants I speak to are not selling, $100 worth of value. They're not selling, $200, of a program or a project or whatever it might be. They're selling, tens of thousands most of the time, which means that a conversation is required to actually get the sale. So rather than wait for those conversations to come in, creating those opportunities for those conversations on a regular basis. Now, how do you do that? Well, the old model is certainly to ask people to refer you. If you know anyone, send them my way, and you're waiting for the phone to ring. But the new model is actually get to know these people and be in a regular conversation with them. Now, that could be through what I call the barrel, which is meaning, you can start forming community, collaboration. You're actually in conversations with these people on a regular basis, either through your own events, through groups you're a part of, through networks, etc. And you're getting a chance to have a chat to them and go, what's happening in your space? What's currently going on right now? And they will say things that make you go, that's really interesting. I might have some ideas from you. Let's chat about those. And then, you get people saying yes. But if you don't create those opportunities to have a conversation, to have a chat with people, then you're going to be waiting for people to call. And so even on a simple non-digital way of looking at this, how many phone calls are you making out to people on a weekly or monthly basis who could buy from you? Now, I'm not talking about strangers. You connect with the strangers and then you bring them into your world. You might invite them to something. You might share something with them. You get to know them a little bit. But once you know them, there'll be an element of relationship that's been generated to the point where you can invite them to something more specific. You can actually say to them, I know you've got that challenge. Maybe we should talk about that. And you can actually take them to that step. But a conversation needs to happen. So each week, actually, here's the rhythm, really. The rhythm is, if you want monthly clients, you need to be doing this stuff weekly. If you want weekly clients, you need to be doing this stuff daily. So, especially if you're trying to rebuild something, or if you're trying to move into a new market, or you're trying to, get the momentum rolling again, my suggestion would be that you would want those weekly opportunities, which means you need to do the daily activities. But if you're in maintenance mode, in other words, you're going along, things are going quite well, and you need to make sure that you're growing at a certain pace, or at least replacing churn within your business, then you might do it on a monthly basis. All right. So what are the activities? Well, there's those two activities I talked about. Now, there is so much more we can go into depth on, but there's no need to do it right here, because I can just tell you these two things and they're going to be really useful. You just got to build them into your business. So where is your market? Where are those people you want to engage with? And if you're like, they're everywhere, then I know for sure that your market is not niche enough. You're not specific enough. There's so many people push back on niche, because I can help everybody. 100% you can help everybody. But by helping everybody, what ends up happening is you spend a lot of energy going everywhere to find people who are ready to work with right now, rather than getting very clear about either an industry, a sector, a specific problem that you solve, or a specific outcome that you develop, right? If you get very clear on those things, then it's very easy to go, that's where those people are. Let's say that we're, after mechanics. I don't know how many consultants are working with mechanics, but was that working with mechanics? All right, cool. Where are they? Well, they're in a mechanics association. All right, they're in groups, all about that. They're working with business coaches, in different spaces who are niching. All right. Let's say we want to work with local government. All right. Where is local government? Well, they have their own discussion groups. They have their own, you know exactly where they are, because there's council offices. If we want to go higher up the tree to departments of government, whether it be Defence Force, or it could be many others, you go, all right, where are these people? And once you know where they are, literally where are they, either online, in groups, en masse, in a place, you can go there and connect with them, even if it's as simple as going to LinkedIn, clicking the connect button and starting a conversation. We're not talking about selling to them on the first date. We're not talking about anything like that. All we're saying is connecting with them. Bring them into your world, and then if it makes sense, invite them to something so you can get to know them a little. All right. So that's the first start of it. The other part of it that has to happen each week is that you have these conversations. So that could be you saying, all right, well, I'm going to call 5 people, 10 people a week, and do a check-in. How are you going? You might actually go over 90 days, I'm going to have a revolving conversation roster where I'll speak to these 5 people, then these 5 people, then these 5 people. So every 90 days you've spoken to your prospect list. Okay, another good way of doing it. Now, if you don't want to do phone calls, do social chats. Invite them to an event. There are many ways you can do it. Email is not a conversation, unless it is a conversation. And what I mean by that is, like, if you're just doing an email newsletter and you're not getting any voice back, if you're not getting a response, that's not a conversation. But if you send an email and there's a response and there's back and forth, that is a conversation. And so that's the key thing with a conversation. It's not talking at people, it's talking with people. And the easiest way to talk with people is understand where they are, and the form of communication that they enjoy, something that's easy for them, right? So if you want consistent clients, if you want consistent high quality clients, then number one, get clear about what quality looks like. Get clear about where they hang out. And then I would suggest on a weekly or daily basis, connect with new people that are in that market and have conversations with people in that market. And funnily enough, what happens is you trip over work. Now, you may be full to the brim, 100%. You're busy. I know a lot of people are very, very busy. Usually it's because you've designed a business that doesn't allow you to be flexible and actually get higher fee clients. And you're going, well, you might only have 3 high fee-paying clients and you've got a very successful business, but you're also spending that extra day if you're working 4 days a week, or 2 days if you want to work further and just like spread it out a little, make your days a little easier. You're spending that time actually working on the business. And the business is about developing for the future and having those conversations to turn people into clients, right? Give them the opportunity to turn them into clients. Now, that also plays into the final step, which I'll touch on, which is that if you are not working on an exit plan with your current clients, then you may be either doing yourself or them a disservice. If you've implanted yourself into a business where if you left right now, that they would actually have trouble replacing the role you were playing, then you are enabling an issue inside that business rather than actually helping guide and consult that business. A lot of the time people will get into an engagement with a business and get stuck there for years and become part of the furniture and in essence become an employee of sorts. And my suggestion is to always be working on what is the exit, whether that be a case of I'm getting you to this outcome, then I'm stepping back, which obviously pushes you to get the outcome far better. But also what it does, it enables you to step out before you become an expectation, an employee, someone they're expecting to be there. You actually want to always keep that high value advisor role in any of your engagements so you can continue to get high quality fees and continue to push and develop yourself as the professional that you know that you are. If anyone's interested to actually talk to me about the consistency of their clients, then talk to me. You can reach out to me. russellpearson.com is one way. Your Consulting Business Podcast, so it's consultingbusinesspodcast.com is another way that you can actually find me. We've got previous episodes there, and there's also a very cool little downloadable that you can get from there as well. Love you to go check that out. Things change on there quite often, so if you haven't gone and checked it out more recently, there's some new stuff available as well. And there's all other ways that you can engage with me, but basically all we'd be doing is just having a brainstorm, because there's only two things I do. It's cool now. The life is good. I do strategy for companies with teams. All right, so we work with them on the strategy, and they're short engagements because we get those results fast. And the other is in the Forge Business Program, where I help solo consultants and solo plus consultants actually move into new markets or get consistency on their leads, or become better salespeople. So they're not actually dealing with tire kickers; they're actually dealing with people who are saying yes, right? And that has an end date as well, right? I work with these people and I move them through a process and I get them the result. Then they go off and they decide whether they want to, build those teams out or actually step into a really cool maintenance process, which I call gardening, right? So if you're interested to talk about how to get those consistent clients, maybe you've been on the roller coaster ride, maybe you are looking for new markets to move into, or whether you'd just like to get more confident in what it is you're doing, the specific steps you're doing, or in the sales conversation itself, do reach out. We can have a chat, just a 10-minute chat to see if and how I could even help. Until next time, go and check out the Consulting Business podcast for other episodes. We'd love you to put a review in if you've enjoyed the things that I talk about. If you're seeing this on YouTube, go check out the podcast version. If you're listening to this on the podcast version, go and check out the YouTube version, because there are differences in the two different versions. And I'd love you to subscribe to all the different places so you continue to hear from me. Yeah. Until next time, my name's Russell Pearson. Stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on Your Consulting Business Podcast. Make sure to click the subscribe button for future updates, and also make sure to go to consultingbusinesspodcast.com for goodies made especially for you by yours truly. I will see you on the site.